Santa Thing by Jack Mangan. Rooftop snow crunched beneath my pointy, curled boots. A lone Blitzen stood tethered to frozen water pipes on the apartment tower's southeast corner. I'd been following the creature for hours now on an unbridled dasher, always one step, one stop behind, until I'd finally spotted its sleigh parked on this tenement rooftop. The two reindeer huddled together in mute socialization while I conducted a cautious investigation. The snowy roofscape offered only the Santa creature's shallow boot and claw prints, walking directly from the sleigh to the vent. Smoky vapor breathes into the cold December heights as I size up the building's little, weather-beaten pipe. Such a narrow fit, even for an elf. Why can't these goddamn places ever have chimneys? I begin the painful, physical shift, muttering curses and squeezing my form into that slender circular shaft. The reindeer watch with bored expressions. Even without the creature's distinct scent, I could have tracked it by the claw marks on the pipe's damp, rusted interior. The deeper I pressed into the heart of the old building, the more defined my dread became. My quickening heartbeat thudded faintly in this plumber's claustrophobic maze. Out of the pipes, into the ducts, crawling now through a slightly more expansive ventilation shaft. My pointed ears caught the building's soft cacophony echoing through the passageway. Laughter and conversations from some grown-up parties. The groans of tired old floorboards. Whispers of excited, sleepless children. Stirrings of small animals, even a mouse. Whimpers, frightened sobs. A scream. That's my destination. Bloody images of the mansion in Ottawa flashed through my mind unbidden. I'd arrived at that house 10 minutes too late. No. Shut those thoughts out. I stopped inside the tight confines of the ventilation shaft, took 2 deep breaths. Another half-scream. That one sounded like a child. My pace quickened. I would not fail the families in this tenement. The striped Yule gun felt reassuring, holstered to my hip. The smell of ginger, fear, and death flooded my nostrils as I reached the grate. This was the place. I squeezed through the vent, trying to grit my teeth and keep quiet against the painful reshift. My feet landed on something soft, but it wasn't the hallway carpet. I stumbled on the uneven surface, hit my head on the wall, and fell down hard. So much for stealth. I rolled onto my side, found that I'd stumbled on a dead German shepherd. Its bloody lip was curled back in one final defiant snarl.
What the hell was that?
A man's voice from another room. I sat up and looked into the tear-shot eyes of a young, princess-pajamaed girl. She hugged a ragged plush giraffe, looked at me from under arched brows. The man's voice rose in panic.
Danielle, get back here!
Are you the real Santa Claus?
Her small voice was hoarse. A moment later, a tall man appeared behind her. Flecks of gray lined the borders of his receding hairline. He clutched a tarnished, 3-pronged serving fork in his right hand, his eyes darting fearfully about.
What the hell is that now? Get back into the bedroom, girl. It ain't safe, you hear?
The man spoke in an urgent, angry hush, shaking just enough to blow his tough guy cover. Danielle stepped back, but didn't leave his side. He frowned at me for a long second.
That ain't no Santa. That's just a gnome.
If I had a chocolate coin for every time... I'm not a gnome, I'm an elf, I said, straightening my beard and pointy blue hat. I wanted to curse him out, but I figured I'd spare Danielle's young ears. The dad's shaky finger pointed at me.
Whatever. Just stay away from my...
I don't want to harm your daughter, man, or your baby. I'm from the North Pole. I'm here to help. Where's the creature now? Has anybody been hurt? Other than the dog?
Here to help? What the fuck's that thing in my living room, Jack? I thought Santa was fat and jolly and all ho-ho-ho and shit. Why do I got some kind of big-ass gremlins after midnight looking motherfucker under my tree?
He whispered forcefully. I stood up with a deep sigh, brushed myself off, tried to appear cool for this man and his daughter. My hands went into my pockets to hide their trembling. The dad seemed calm slightly.
No, it didn't hurt no one except Oscar.
He gestured to the dead German shepherd. I nodded. Mr. Miller, James. Can I call you James? You'll get a formal apology from the North Pole when this is all over. There's too much to explain now. You need to get your family out of this apartment. What the hell are you still doing here?
The monster's in the living room. I've been holed up with Wanda and the kids in the bedroom.
He pointed with his fork to the door behind him.
Which is where we'd better get back right now. Gotta go through the living room to get outside, and I ain't going anywhere near that Sigourney Weaver-looking motherfucker.
He nodded to the end of the hallway behind me. I looked over my shoulder, but couldn't see much through the beaded curtain opening.
Can't trust none of the fire escapes in this damn old building, so we stuck.
And you were going to defend your family with a turkey fork?
Man, fuck you. My wife has a baseball bat.
There was a rustling noise from behind the curtain. Danielle's eyes went wide. Don't worry, I'm armed, I said, patting the Yule gun.
That's a weapon? It just looks like a big candy cane.
Danielle said. Will you two get into the bedroom already? I'll go out there and see what I can do. James nodded, visibly shaking as he hurried backward, leading his daughter away. But James, if I come knocking on that door, you'd better let me... Slam. A low, guttural growling, followed by a hiss from the living room. The hollow sound of some thin glass item breaking, like an ornament falling from a Christmas tree. I drew the candy-striped Yule gun and walked slowly toward the living room, trying to pass through the beaded curtain with as little noise as possible. A wire of seasonal bulbs framed the room's frosted, grime-covered window. Their red and green glows shone eerily into the apartment's gloom. The miller's tree had been strung with lights too, but they were entirely dark now. What had once been a living icon of joy was now just a hulking, sinister mass of green and tinsel in the corner. I took a few more tentative steps towards the tree, stopped short when its branches trembled. The sweat on my lip tasted of cinnamon and pumpkin spices. The branches shook some more, causing another small avalanche of ornaments. A large, blue-wrapped present toppled over, and my heart skipped like a Bing Crosby record. Fear. Pure fear coursed through my veins, thick and viscous as figgy pudding. The mutated Santa's reptilian face emerged from the shadowy corner where the gift had just been. I tried to speak to it, but could only manage a wheezing gasp, my legs and arms quivering like chihuahuas. The creature moved in a slithering, agile motion, rising from the darkness beneath the tree. A forked tongue flicked amidst its wispy, slush-colored beard. The red hat perched at a lopsided angle atop its head, the puffy white band resting just above its cat's eyes. Sickly red patches blotted its moon-pale skin. The stupid red uniform clung to its wiry frame like a jumpsuit. Thick black raptor claws poked their way out of the heels of its black boots. My dread had been more than justified. My dread had proven insufficient. I had wrangled the Santa creatures at the North Pole, raised them from hatchlings. I was one of the chief handlers for the entire North American fleet. The Santas are supposed to be a fairly docile species, more cuddly mammal than cold reptile. I'd never before seen anything like this, a tall humanoid snake in red and white. It couldn't have looked anything like this when it departed the pole a few hours ago. Someone would have noticed. It would have been detained. The creature must have been genetically triggered to mutate in the field. I silently cursed those treacherous, ambitious elfin scientists. The result of their clandestine tampering was here now, in this living room, staring at me with murderous slitted eyes. It inched towards me on all fours, exhaling a long, serpentine hiss, claws clicking on the thin carpet. Okay. The Santa thing then stood upright, towering over me at about 5 feet tall. The Yule gun hung uselessly in my fear-numb hands. Okay, run. I watched in third person as it approached, certain that this poor, quivering, blue-hatted elf was about to meet his gruesome end. Yes, that blue-hatted elf is you, stupid. I could feel the dank heat of its breath, inches from my brow. Turn around and run, you fucking idiot. Get the hell out of there. Its right arm slashed out suddenly, causing me to yelp and stagger back. I tripped over my own pointy-booted feet and fell on my ass. My scream had startled the Santa, too. It recoiled back from the coffee table with a hiss. A cookie clutched in its hand. Okay, it was just going for the cookie, but you're next. Get up. Get the jingle hell out of that apartment. It quickly stood at full height again. I could swear that a malicious smile creased its lips. The Santa devoured the cookie, plus the other two on the table, then greedily gulped down the accompanying glass of milk. The creature threw back its head with half-lidded eyes, as if in ecstasy.
"What are you doing? Run, now!"
Some kind of logic center cut through the fear in my brain, urged me to head for the safety of the miller's bedroom. I stood with slow caution, watching the thing's rapture. A long, slow moment passed. I took a step toward the hall. Its head snapped down, eyes wide, boring into me. A guttural threat rumbled through its throat, like a bowl full of jelly. The Santa hurled the milk cup forcefully over its shoulder, shattering the dirty window pane outward. As cold December air rushed into the miller's living room, I heard Wanda cry out from behind the closed bedroom door. With a shriek, I bolted for the hallway. Almost made it, too. The Santa was quick. It dragged me to the floor like a lion taking a gazelle. Blade-sharp claws scraped my legs, but did not pierce the flesh as I toppled onto my belly. I clutched uselessly at the curtains, ripping the bead strands down to blanket over us. It flipped me onto my back with unearthly strength. In a flurry of stringed beads, red cloth, and little bells, it was straddling my chest, pinning me to the scratchy carpet. How could this spindly, 5-foot-tall creature weigh so much? I wondered if it was going to crush the air from my lungs before its claws tore me open.
"You should have run when you had the chance."
"Yeah, thanks." The sandpaper-forked tongue flicked across my face. Drool trickled down from its chin, but I was too frightened to be disgusted.
"The girl,"
it hissed. Astonishment filtered into my horror. "What? You guys can talk?"
"Bring me Danielle, elf. No one else need be hurt tonight."
"What do you want with her, you sick fuck? I saw what happened in one of your Ottawa stops. No doubt at 100 other houses tonight, too. I reared you from the day you were hatched. I'm the one who gives orders between us, and I will not let you hurt anyone else." Funny how mortal terror can breed such impotent rage. Wet, salty fear bled from my eyes, slid down my temples into my hair. I couldn't focus on anything but the row of gator-like teeth in its mouth, the single Ginsu-like fingernail that tapped my chin. Forgive me. I think if I'd believed in any hope of survival, I just might have offered up the girl. But I'd seen what it had done in Ottawa. I expected any moment to feel the terrible, unforgiving firmness of its claws piercing my flesh, tearing holes in my organs from the inside.
"I need help. I am confused. She will come peacefully for you. You must bring me Danielle."
Its tone was quieter but more angry, more insistent now. I could contain myself no longer. "James!" I shouted. "James, get your family out of here! Risk the fire escape! You can—" Its strong hand clamped down over my mouth. I stared wide into its eyes, those vertical slits narrowed mere inches away. With a growl, it leapt upright, hauling me up by my collar. It slammed me into a wall, denting the sheetrock, then stalked off toward the bedroom. "Wait! No! Stop! Stop! I'll get her for you!" The thing paused in the hallway. I scurried past its clawed hands, moving to intercede between it and the bedroom door. "Just the girl. No one else?" I asked. It nodded. "Wait right here, then, Santa. Do not move from that spot. I'll bring her out to you." My hands were up in a placating stance. "Just hold on." It watched warily as I leaned against the door and tried the knob. They locked it. I knocked softly. "James. James, let me in. It's going to be okay." Nothing. The creature stepped closer. I held up a hand, feeling the fear tighten in my elf perineum. "James, let me in." The sound of bolts clicking. I turned the knob and hurried inside, slamming the door shut behind me. I looked up to see a grown man and woman rush me, teeth bared for battle. James' fork caromed painfully off my arm, drawing shouts from both of us, the woman's aluminum bat striking the door hard, merely inches above my head. "Hey, calm down! Fa-la-la, motherfuckers!" I screamed in rage, clutching the spot where the dull fork tines had struck my shoulder. Luckily, it hadn't penetrated the fabric of my coat. "That's going to leave a bruise, you lady! Wanda Miller had raised the bat for another strike, but James grabbed her wrists. Baby Darrell began to cry in his portacrib. James mumbled something to reassure his wife. She shot me a dark look and went to see to Darrell, still with the bat in hand. Danielle managed a frightened smile for me from her spot on their bed. I couldn't find a smile to give her back. I locked the door behind me. "Okay, James, listen up. Wanda, you too. A lot to say and no time. I'm sorry, Danielle, but there is no Santa Claus. The myth isn't all bullshit, though, pardon my Finnish. There really are a bunch of us elves at the North Pole, obviously, who make toys and distribute them to the girls and boys of the world. One fat human couldn't do that monumental delivery task alone, of course. No one guy could fly to every single household on the planet in one period of 16 or so hours. That's ludicrous. For decades, we've been employing this specialized breed of animals to fulfill the Santa role for us. We raise and rear and train these semi-intelligent creatures from birth to do this one task, every year on Christmas Eve. And so... Comprehension dawned on James' face.
So you bred that fucking thing out there? What'd you do? Mix the DNA of Manson and a T-Rex?
No, they'd always been cuddly and tranquil before. Cute little cherry noses, even. But some of the elves felt that our fleets performed inefficiently last year. So a vote was set in July to determine whether we should genetically re-engineer the creatures to be better, faster, stronger. I voted against it, just so you know. So did a lot of other elves. The motion was shot down. But it would appear that the proponents of the genetic engineering secretly went ahead with their plan anyway, hence that thing in your living room. The consumption of cookies and milk was to cause a molecular bolstering in these animals. They get bigger, stronger, and apparently smarter. And apparently this new breed of Santa is prone to an increased aggression as well.
Do you think?
James said. Well, look, I don't know what or why, but something is different here, at your place. A few hours ago, I received a call at the North Pole from one of our quality control agents, reporting a critical mishap in the field. By the time I got to his location at the mansion in Ottawa, he was dead, along with everyone else in the house, mutilated. James and Wanda looked at each other, both on the verge of tears.
Then why didn't it kill all of us?
Asked Danielle. A moment passed. I could feel the thing's impatience growing from the hallway. I'd spent too much time talking. I don't know. Honestly, I don't care. You guys are all getting out of here. This is going to be really risky and going to cut incredibly close, but I think we can make it. I spoke as if I'd had a plan all along, as if I wasn't forming it in my mind as we spoke. When I get this started, we will all be in very real danger, and there will be no turning back. Everyone in? 3 nods. Merry Christmas. Good. Now, everyone by the window. Open it up, I said, sounding more brave than I felt.
Man, I told you. Those fire escapes are...
Elves are not widely known for their withering stares, but James caught one of my strongest. He stopped talking, moved over to stand with his arms on Danielle's shoulders. Wanda slid the window open, immediately dropping the room temperature by 10 degrees. I drew the red and white striped Yule gun.
You mocked my fork, yet you got that thing?
James said. I said nothing, just pulled a small whistle from my pocket, touched my lips to it, and blew. I could hear no sound from it, neither could the humans, but the frequency wasn't intended for our ears. The note also wasn't intended for the creature in the hall, but I worried that it would catch the high-pitched noise. Okay, get ready! A jarring hit shook the bedroom door, followed by an angry hiss. Yep, the Santa could hear the whistle. My mind went away momentarily, but I forced myself to look at the baby in Wanda's arm, at Danielle's tiny frame in her princess pajamas, to refocus. I would not let my elfin brethren's mistake come in and hurt these children. Another smash. I watched the door buckle. It would give soon. 2 more hits, maybe, and then... Here's Johnny.
Mommy, Daddy, reindeers! There are 2 flying reindeers outside.
I looked out at them with a surge of relief. Dasher and Blitzen both hovered with their feet kicking idly just beyond the fire escape. Danielle was hopping and pointing with such excitement, I couldn't help but smile in spite of everything else. The creature soon cured me of that joy with another impact on the door. A bold crack scribbled its way down the front. "Okay, everyone out! Mom, you get into the sleigh with the kids. Dad, you hop onto Dasher's saddle. Let them take you down to street level. Don't stop when you land. Just get to a police station or someplace else safe. I'll handle the thing for as long as I can."
Oh, Daddy, can I ride Dasher? Please? Will you sit in the sleigh with Mommy? I'll be careful. I promise.
Danielle clasped her hands together. Before he could answer, a clawed hand punched its way into the room through the ruined wooden door. "Just go! Get on the reindeer and get out of here!" I shoved them out onto the rickety fire escape, James wasn't kidding, and slammed the window shut behind them. The creature burst into the room through the shattered door, sending wood splinters everywhere. This time there was no trigger hesitation. I leveled the Yule gun and fired off 4 successive shots. Mistletoe after mistletoe launched out. Santa staggered with the green leafy darts protruding from its skin, but stayed upright. Those tranks packed enough eggnog to knock out the entire Donner Party, but this Santa thing just kept coming. I watched with helpless dread as it pressed forward across the small bedroom, shoving me roughly out of the way. It pulled the window frame right out of the wall, the glass fragmenting and hitting the floor in massive broken shards. It loosed a terrible, mournful cry, watching the Millers fly off on their magical steeds. White hairs in my beard shriveled to gray.
Danielle!
The creature roared, sustaining the note, its voice overwrought with loss. Its grief moved me so that I paused for a moment too long. It turned and grabbed my shoulders roughly, this time allowing its nails to draw blood. I screamed in pain and dropped the Yule gun. It lifted me bodily and hurled me at the wall. I hit the miller's bureau, felt its unforgiving border dig into my lower back. In spite of the pain and terror, I forced myself up and scrambled out into the living room. Sure, I was foolish to think I'd escape, but at this point, I was stricken with terror beyond logic. The thing caught me again, right by the coffee table. I was going to die. Another deafening, close-range roar. Another lock of grayed hair. It spun me onto my back and drove its long talons all the way through my chest on both sides, mirrored punctures just below my clavicle bone. It was pain unlike anything I'd ever known. I nearly blacked out. With sharp claws stuck through me like hooks, it lifted me high up off the ground, held its face close to mine. I screamed in agony, let my fury take over, bellowed a second time into its face. The fear was still there, but the acceptance of my fate unleashed a bravado I'd never before possessed. I somehow summoned a defiant laugh, followed by a string of linked curse words. I could see my rage feeding into it, could see its fury nearing combustion. It would soon tear me to pieces. Fine. Anything to get the Millers more time. Anything to get Danielle to safety.
Mr. Santa thing?
I heard her voice. No, Danielle, get the hell out of here. I'm saving you. Get away. We both looked in the direction of her voice, which had come from directly outside the broken window. She floated there atop a bored-looking Dasher. Danielle, get the hell out of here. I looked at the creature, saw how its features softened upon seeing her.
Mr. Santa thing, do you want me to come in there and get you some more cookies?
It immediately let me slide painfully free to lie in my own blood on their floor. I could see it nodding enthusiastically. Tears again on my face. I knew I wasted my words. Danielle, no, don't! Get away from here! I lay there helplessly watching the big creature approach the window. It helped her climb to safety from Dasher's back through the opening, treading her between the frame's tenacious, jagged glass. It then set the girl gently on her feet, looking down with excited anticipation. Danielle looked up sternly.
You have done a lot of very bad things tonight, Santa. Very bad. I loved my doggy. You killed him. And that gnome said you hurt a lot of other people, too.
Actually, I'm an elf, I said.
I don't think I can be your friend, Santa.
She went into the kitchen, leaving a very wounded-looking creature in her wake. It sat down dejectedly on the couch. I sat up, wincing in pain, watched in stunned silence, unsure what to do. unsure who needed rescuing and unsure who was in danger anymore. Danielle came out of the kitchen with a plate stacked with cookies, a pile of imperfect, misshapen, divine circles. She set them down in front of the creature.
I baked them with love.
Her voice full of little girl attitude. It looked sadly at the plate and back at her.
Danielle, could I trouble you for some milk with these?
She sighed, rolled her eyes dramatically, then stalked off to the kitchen again.
When I came into the apartment, I delivered the presents according to my training. I saw with disappointment that the coffee table was empty and was all set to just leave peacefully again through the grate.
The creature was talking, maybe to me, maybe just thinking aloud.
But then she came out from the kitchen with the cookies and milk. She'd been hiding in there to catch a glimpse of Santa, you see. I ate some of the cookies and felt the accompanying rush. It was like an awakening in my mind. Everything was going to be fine until that damned dog spotted me. It started to go nuts, barking like mad, and, well, something snapped in my brain. But I'm all right now. God rest ye, bloody gentlemen.
It was the love, I said, shaking my head. It was the love that had confused you, that had sent you to hide behind their tree rather than to butcher them all. She returned and set a glass of milk down on the table, stood with her hands on her hips.
Thank you,
it hissed. Then, after a bite of chocolate chip,
I'm so sorry about your dog, and your windows, and your beaded curtain.
Well, you're magic. You can bring Oscar back to life, right? And you can fix the windows, right?
The thing and I shared a commiserating glance. My shoulders were still killing me. I couldn't believe I'd just shared a moment with this fucking thing. Danielle, I'm afraid our magic doesn't reach that far. I'm sorry. Her eyes glazed over, but she maintained her composure.
And all of those people you hurt in Ottawa?
I cast my eyes downward. The creature also said nothing.
And what about all those other mutated Santa things out there, turning violent in all those other places, hurting all of those other people?
Nothing can be undone, Danielle.
But further harm can be prevented,
the creature whispered, standing up quickly. It scarfed another cookie, closed its eyes and shuddered, then walked over to stand by Oscar's body under the grate.
I will travel the world to prevent my brothers from doing any more harm. If I die in the process, then it's no more than I deserve.
He looked down sadly at the German shepherd. Wait. I stood up too, then put a hand on the table, feeling very dizzy. Wait, I can help too.
No, my friend. You need medical attention. You must return to the pole to get help. You can also inform your elf brethren of the situation. Perhaps they can mobilize and send out forces en masse to help curb the global Santa threat.
As bloodthirsty and murderous as it had been earlier, I now found myself unable to counter the creature's logic.
Go on,
it said.
Dasher still awaits you outside the broken window.
He's right, you know,
Danielle said.
And you, my sweet child,
it said, looking sadly again at her.
I am so sorry for the pain I've caused you and your family. Just know that your love has saved me, and I am forever in your debt. Thank you, Danielle.
Its form began to shift and distort for that painful squeeze into the grate. "Okay, I'll head back home," I said. "They'll send out the troops, and I'll make sure you get another reindeer in case we can't get your Blitzen back."
"Fine,"
the creature hissed.
"Just don't send a Rudolph. I hate those smug bastards."
And then it was gone.
Bye-bye, Santa thing.
Danielle looked over at me with a disgusted expression.
Thanks for your help, too, but you're getting blood all over our carpet. Santa was right. You better hurry off to the gnome hospital before you bleed to death.
Actually, I'm an elf, Danielle. But you are a sweet little girl. Don't ever become cynical. Don't ever give up on doing the right thing.
I won't. Do you want a cookie?
Thank you, but probably never again. I climbed carefully out of the window, swung myself dizzily into Dasher's saddle. Danielle ran to the window and waved.
Bye, Dasher. Thanks for the ride. That was the most fun I've ever had. Ever, 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 ever.
And then we were off. I did get to the North Pole for stitches and all that, but I made a few stops before the hospital. Naturally, I assembled the Elf Air Force and informed them of the situation, told them how it was going to need to be handled. Love and cookies, my brothers. Love and cookies. Not a single reindeer remained in the North Pole stables that evening. Every last one flew an elf out to save humanity from the damage being done. The stories of elfin courage during that night's terrible battles are too many to recount here. FYI, Danielle's Santa survived that night, was a star witness in the trial to nail the elves behind the genetic tampering. He and I exchange emails occasionally. He's fine, fully cured, has a place in Hoboken now with his girlfriend. Spends every Christmas Eve on call to troubleshoot delivery incidents. Works the rest of the year in a Soho gallery. The Elfin Senate was called into an emergency session. Outraged at the unauthorized genetic mods, they pledged an immediate investigation. That left only one detail to cover before my desperately needed medical attention. I stopped into the distribution management services, got the DMS supervisor out to speak with me personally. I have a special order. This needs to be resolved immediately, tomorrow.
Boxing Day?
No, Christmas Day. He sighed, held up his pen and clipboard to take the order.
Anything for the big hero.
Danielle Miller of Secaucus, New Jersey. Her family needs 2 new windows installed in their apartment, and they need a new German Shepherd puppy. A boy, if you can find one.
Got it. Anything else?
Yeah, one more thing. I know this isn't standard policy, but whoever delivers it needs to show up during the day. Bring a dasher, and let her ride it for a little while. The supervisor elf stopped writing and looked at me with an arched brow. I shot him my devastating, withering look. He yawned, nodded, and finished writing out the order on his clipboard.
Done.
I nodded and staggered wearily off toward the EER.
Hey!
The supervisor called out as I left.
Merry Christmas, hero!
Yeah, and to all a good night.
My sincerest, most reformed Scrooge-like gratitude to the cast for their wonderful, wonderful readings. I knew they'd each do well, but holy crap, they still exceeded my wildest expectations. In order of appearance, the elf and primary narrator was read masterfully by JustaJoe, who's probably best known in the podcast world for his contributions to Jack Mangan's Deadpan podcast, the old Dragon Page Wingin' It podcast, and his own 2007-2008 Cup Car Update. For his efforts, he gets a tawdry table lamp in the shape of a woman's leg. The part of Danielle was read wonderfully by Ryah Deines, a.k.a. the Energizer Bunny at the Deadpan podcast, and also well known for her involvement in the World Fantasy Con podcast and for her involvement in the whole Western Canadian con scene. She gets Zuzu's pedals. The part of James Miller, Danielle's freaked-out father, was read by me, Jack Mangan, known for wearing funny underwear. Also, maybe, for the Jack Mangan's Deadpan podcast, my short story and patio books releases and a bunch of my fiction releases out there in small presses and somewhat larger presses, and For my many, many, many contributions and appearances on many, 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 many other podcasts, I get a rock. The part of the Santa thing was read chillingly by Lejon Johnson, author and friend of the Deadpan podcast, also known for his Touching the Monolith podcast. He gets to carve the roast beast. Last but not least, Jack Hosley, a.k.a. Wander Wolf of the Wander Radio podcast, and also a frequent guest and collaborator all over the podcast world. He read the part of the irritable DMS supervisor, with flawless board inflection, I might add. He gets his 2 front teeth. I'd also like to send a quick note of thanks to everyone at Horror Addicts, especially Emrian, Kirk, and Sapphire. Mainly because they're horror enthusiasts, they will get visits from 3 spirits, plus the ghost of Marley and his rattling chains. And of course, before I sign off, I must thank you, dear listener. I'll try to get you a ride on a Dasher sometime soon.